For range of motion of shoulder flexion, have your patient in the supine position with their legs bent. Have the patient flex their shoulder as far as they can all the way to the back of the table. Place the fulcrum in the middle of the axillary region where the acromion process would be. Have the stationary arm parallel to the midline of the thorax, and the moving arm follows the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. And she has 176 degrees of flexion. For range of motion, shoulder abduction, have your patient in the supine position. Have their arm fully externally rotated with their palm facing the ceiling. Have the patient slide their arm up and around towards their ear as far as they can. Have the fulcrum in line with the axilla. The stationary arm will be parallel with the midline of the sternum, and the moving arm will be in line with the medial condyle of the humerus. She has 180 degrees of shoulder abduction. For range of motion of shoulder extension, have the patient lying prone with their arms to their side. Have the patient internally rotate their arm and their head facing the opposite direction of the arm you are measuring. Have the patient bring their arm as far off the bed as possible, and we're going to line up the fulcrum with the greater tubercle of the humerus, and the stationary arm is going to be in line with the midline of the thorax, and the moving arm will be in line with the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. So if you could just lift your arm. Perfect. Good, you can rest. She has 40 degrees of shoulder extension.
Perfect.
For range of motion, external rotation, have the patient in the supine position. Abduct the shoulder to 90 degrees and flex the elbow at 90 degrees. Put a rolled towel under the distal humerus so that the humerus is parallel to the ground. Have the patient move their arm back towards the floor. If the bed gets in the way, you can move the patient's hand. Move the patient arm down a little farther, and the fulcrum goes over the olecranon of the ulna, and the stationary arm is perpendicular to the ground. The moving arm lines up with the ulnar styloid process, and she has 84 degrees of external rotation. For range of motion, internal rotation, have the patient in the supine position. Abduct the shoulder to 90 degrees and flex the elbow at 90 degrees. Put a rolled towel under the distal humerus so that the humerus is parallel to the ground. Hold the patient's elbow and have them move their arm forward toward the floor. Watch for upper shoulder compensation. The fulcrum goes over the olecranon of the ulna, and the stationary arm is perpendicular to the floor. The moving arm lines up with the ulnar styloid process. And she has 20 degrees of internal rotation.